Recording in progress.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Whitehall City Council meeting of August 17th, 2021. Can we please rise for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Aug, would you please call roll?
Yes, here, sorry.
Morrison.
Present.
Bailey.
Present.
Rodriguez.
Present.
Elmore.
Present.
Coniston.
Present.
Cantor.
Present.
President Carr.
Present. This time, I'd accept a motion for the approval of the August 3rd, 2021 agenda and regular meeting minutes, as well as the August 10th, 2021 agenda and emergency special meeting minutes.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
There's been a motion by Ms. Coniston, second by Mr. Cantor. Any discussion? Ms. Aug, please call roll.
Peck.
Yes.
Morrison.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Elmore.
Yes.
Coniston.
Yes.
Cantor.
Yes.
The minutes have been approved. At this time, we have got a special presentation from Ryan Anders of EMH&T, who will be accompanied by Director Woodruff to talk about the Ohio Public Works Commission application for these Broad Street road improvements. Please come forward.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council. We wanted to come to council this evening to give a presentation for our proposed application for the Ohio Public Works Commission grant project. I'm going to pull my mask down just so people at home can hear me. What we are proposing is the first of what will be a three-phase application. So our proposed application in 21, 22, and 23 for improvements along Broad Street from our western corporation limit to Big Walnut Creek. The first phase that you'll have legislation for next week, and we would ask to be voted on in September before the deadline of, I think it's the 13th, if I remember correctly. So the first phase is from our western corporation limit to Robinwood, and I'll let Ryan speak to the specifics on the project. But I just want to remind council that the OPWC program is very competitive and has gotten certainly more competitive over the last number of years. So as Ryan and I work together, our goal is to not only find projects that are needed and worthwhile, but also to evaluate how they would score competitively as it relates to previous rounds, so we could get a gauge on whether or not we believe that the projects could get funded. This is not to say that there aren't other streets or other projects in Whitehall that may be in worse shape or that people may think are more valuable. But again, we have to balance that with projects that will score high enough to get funded. In OPWC, there are typically two tracks that programs or projects can qualify for. The first is a 75% grant and a 25% loan. That loan to the city, our match, is converted to an interest-free loan for the useful life of the project. For projects like this, it's typically 22 to 26 years. The other track, depending on the project, depending on other factors in the scoring, is 100% grant funded with no match or no loan from the city. In previous rounds, the city received that for the Broad and Hamilton intersection improvement project, as well as the Poth Road project that's going on right now. Typically, those awards are geared towards infrastructure projects that have a significant economic development component. And so at this time, we're unsure whether this project would score high enough for that, but we are confident that putting together the application, that it is a worthwhile project and that we can get funded. Again, as I mentioned, This is a 3-year project that we intend to apply for each year for the next 3 years. So construction, if we were awarded this project, engineering and design would begin in 22. Bid of the project and construction would be in 23. So again, construction of subsequent phases would potentially be in 24 and 25. The reason we selected the western edge is that construction season for this project would be in 2023, which is the same time as the Broad and Hamilton intersection improvement project is scheduled to be under construction. And we didn't want to have 2 different projects with 2 different contractors being in the same area and really conflicting with each other. So we're going to start on the western edge and move east. So with that, I'll let Brian kind of speak to some of the specifics.
Thanks, Zach. As Zach mentioned, Ohio Public Works Commission funding is what we're seeking for the Broad Street Phase 1 improvement project, which is what we're calling this section here from the western city limits, just west of Maplewood, all the way to the intersection with Robinwood. As you mentioned, it's a very competitive process, and obviously one of the things that we need to do as part of the grant application, and then we'll probably continue to do during the design phase, is public involvement. And so we actually get points on the application for having a meeting where we involve the public. And so one of the things I do want to do is pass around a sign-in sheet just to document some attendance. And then I also have some forms that people can fill out if you want to provide your opinions on the project, whether you like the project or not. We'll take your feedback. We'll include it in the application, and then we can also look at making changes to the plan if so warranted. But the project itself is not really changing too much about what's out there now. We're not looking to add lanes, widen the footprint of the roadway really. It's really just a heavy maintenance. We're looking to do full reconstruction of the pavement because the pavement is past its useful life. It doesn't maybe look as bad on the surface because it was resurfaced about 10 years ago through an ODOT program, but it does need to be rebuilt. And then there are a lot of issues with the drainage. The curb drainage needs to be improved. Some of the storm sewers and storm inlets are failing and have a few issues there. So we're looking to improve drainage. We're looking to improve the pavement. We're proposing to add a bike trail on one side of the road, a multi-use path, and then redo the sidewalks on the opposite side of the road. So you'll still have walking paths on both sides of the road. One of them will be a slightly wider paved path that can be used for multiple uses, and the other will be a new sidewalk that will be reconstructed back to grades and requirements of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Also proposing to put street lights out there on the corridor as well. They would, from a visual, they would look like what we've done on Hamilton Road, to the north of the city limits near the park, and so on. So those are sort of the elements of the project. Again, competitive process. Our application is due on September 13th. We will find out if we received funding from the Public Works Commission on December 17th. And then from there, the funds become available to the City of Whitehall on, assuming we're successful, on July 1st of 2022. And so that's probably about the time we would start doing the design and the planning and so forth, and get that ready for construction bid in 2023, as Zach had already mentioned. Just to refresh everybody's memory on OPWC, it is gasoline tax money. So it's a good opportunity to bring money that's collected statewide back to the City of Whitehall for a project. As he mentioned, the loan portion is interest-free. So, we typically go for 75% grant, 25% loan. This project right now, we think it's going to cost somewhere in the range of $3 million. And so that would be a 75% grant, 25% loan if we're successful. And as he mentioned already, the loan would be somewhere around 20, 25 years. questions about the project?
Real quick, if I could just jump in before questions. One of the other things that Ryan mentioned that I did want to mention, or did want to bring up, he mentioned the shared use path on the south side of the street. In this phase, we would also connect that shared use path along Broad to the Eastmore Green Line that the City of Columbus will be constructing in 22 and 23. And if you remember, that's the linear park with the shared use path that'll run from Broad Street along the old railroad tracks behind Maplewood, all the way down to 70. And so this will connect to that. And then once this total project is done, all three phases, there'll be a shared use path that will ultimately take you from I-70 up along the Eastmore Green Line, all the way down up into Big Walnut, into Whitehall Community Park, and potentially even then further north, because we'll have that access along Broad Street. So it will connect our residents to other areas of the region.
I did mention the form. So there's a form here, comment form, if you'd like to fill that out as well. You're welcome to take a photo of it, or scan it and email it back to us. There's instructions on who to email it to. And if you choose to fill that out, you don't have to do it in the meeting today, but if you choose to fill that out and send it to us, we just like it maybe a week before the application's due. I think there's probably a date on there, but September 6th, that would be helpful, because it does take us a couple days, at the end to kind of bring everything together, because it's a lot of paperwork, a lot of supporting documentation, and there's a lot of writing that goes on in putting together this grant.
Question.
Yes.
Hi. Thank you for your presentation, Ryan. A question regarding the Reimagined Transit. Is this in conjunction somehow with the Reimagined Transit, how they're going to go from east to west on those different corridors on the Main Street and the Broad Street side? Does this have anything to do, or is this in conjunction with Reimagined Transit?
So I don't necessarily, I haven't heard of Reimagine.
Is it Link Us?
Pardon?
Is it Link Us?
Well, yeah.
Okay, sorry, so many.
I get emails that say Reimagined Transit. So,
Yes, so this
okay.
is, yeah, I mean, so the idea, whether it's Link Us or
Okay.
the Rapid 5 project, or working with CODA, I think the goal of reimagining infrastructure
Okay.
is to ensure that we're increasing other modes of transportation and linking neighborhoods with each other that aren't necessarily just automobile related, which is part of the reason that we believe the shared use path is really important. And again, the idea that by the end of 2025, you could get on your bike, up at Whitehall Community Park and ride all the way along this linear park all the way down to I-70, and then we know it's going to extend past there. But it's really exciting to be able to link our community to other parts of the region. So it certainly is in that vein.
It also has a lot of environmental benefits to not have so many automobiles on the road. So I like what, the sounds of it. I like that. I hope we get this project. The fact that it's green trails and, greenery and bike trails, I think it'll go along with what it is that we're trying to do here in Whitehall. Thank you.
I just had a question. So this is, you said phase 1 of 3 phases. What were the other phases? I'm sorry.
So yeah, the second phase would be from Robinwood to Yearling,
Okay.
and then the last phase would be from Yearling through the Broad Hamilton intersection, potentially all the way down to Big Walnut Creek.
Okay, but the money that we're applying for today is just for phase 1.
Just
so you're
for phase
asking if we
1.
would come
So
back.
yeah, I'm sorry.
So we would come back the next year. For,
Every year. So again, there are, if you tailor your application to the requirements, we could do this all in one application, but the amount that we would be requesting would exceed not only their limits, but we would lose significant points for making that large of a request. So splitting it up into bite-sized chunks allows us to score higher.
Approximately, what is the cost?
Well, this phase, like I said, is approximately $3 million, and it's, roughly a third,
Right.
maybe a little less than a third if we go all the way down to Big Walnut Creek. So, all in all, it's probably a 10, 11
Right.
actually would saves us money, right? Because we're scoring higher, so we have better chances of getting.
And our opportunities for
Yeah,
actually
I think
qualifying.
splitting it up is the only realistic way of getting this project funded.
And we'll apply on this 21, 22, and 23?
That is the one.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anything further? Ryan, Director, thank you for the
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll move to our poll public, and I would like to remind everyone that who chooses to come forward to please state your name, your address, and please be respectful of the 3-minute.
As a former entertainment professional, I time mine at home.
I'm sorry?
I time mine at home.
And I suspected as much.
Gerald Dixon, 3877 W Street. May I remove this and
Yes,
speak?
please.
Thank you. In 61-2021, the ordinance that regulates the rate charged to public utilities, it is declared an emergency measure immediately necessary for the preservation of the public health, peace, safety, and welfare. In the city's charter, it gives the citizens the right to circulate and file a petition opposing ordinances and resolutions up to 20 days after they're passed by council. Ordinance 61-2021's curious inclusion of the emergency measure aligns then with another proviso, also in the charter, that states that ordinances and resolutions that shall not be subject to referendum are those passed as emergency measures, denying them the citizens' option of 20 days to organize a petition. So then, those things beg the concern for every citizen about the legitimacy of the emergency measure being included in this ordinance. Unless everyone is going to be immediately swallowed by crumbling infrastructure, it doesn't make sense that the citizens exercising their rights within 20 days of the ordinance's passage would be precluded by any necessity for this emergency measure, immediately or otherwise. And certainly, if it was, this body, and with the administration, had ample time to remedy this emerging crisis long before the situation got to the point where you had to include an emergency measure in this ordinance. So then, given these facts and their critical analysis, there seems no other logical conclusion to reach than this emergency measure is included not due to actual threat, but rather by design. It was not included to save our city from imminent threat from our infrastructure, but rather the imminent threat to this governmental body from the voice and will of the people. Those who have a right to reasonably exercise their power as they see fit, as outlined and guaranteed in our very charter. This unjustified emergency measure then robs the citizens of those rights, those which this administration is willing to disregard and, quite honestly, trample over in order to obtain what they want, while also deflecting attention from their own irresponsibility in this matter. That which you tonight have the ability to either enable for the administration or reject for the citizens in the name of responsibility and right. And as in a final note, I was just curious if the inclusion of the emergency measure in 61-2021 was confirmed with legal that it doesn't violate our city charter, section 12, emergency measures. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience this evening who'd like to come forward? Jerry, you dropped something. If not, we do have several correspondence that have been turned into council office, and I would ask Ms. Long to please read those into the record.
Jody Martin Euler, 3848 Washburn Street, Whitehall, Ohio. To members of City Council, as a taxpayer of Whitehall, I am requesting council to do the right thing by the people that put you in office and vote no on a surcharge on our water bills or an increase of tax of any kind to pay for sewer repairs. As a senior living alone, I just had a $385 water bill. I cannot afford to pay any more. As a homeowner who was hit with the sewer backups both in March of May of 2020, I now have a $25,000 loan I am paying on for the repairs of the damage and to replace lost items. I'm also paying for a black backflow valve that was installed. I suggest council come up with a different plan for paying for these much-needed repairs, besides trying to pass the expense onto the citizens once again. How about charging an impact fee to the apartment builders in Whitehall? They have a lot more money than the citizens living here. If I had known I was trading these repairs, which could have possibly saved me from flooding for so much being spent on the parks, I don't believe I would have been so supportive of the new parks. We need to take care of our necessities before spending on so many luxuries. Thank you for your time and giving serious thought on this matter that so many people are upset about. Courtney White, 3685 Etna Street. Dear Council, my name is Courtney White. I own my home at 3685 Etna Street. I have heard very little about issues with water and sewer until recently. However, in the past, I did receive information regarding surveys, new parks, and city land purchases, as well as the levy for AstroTurf for the football field, etc. All the fun stuff, so to speak. I would like to express my opposition to the water and sewer surcharge ordinance. I believe that spending has been frivolous and misguided, and that priorities were pushed aside in an attempt to turn Whitehall into something it is not and will not be anytime soon. We did not need a splash pad, dog park, or new parks with things like disc golf and kayak ramps. When you keep raising the cost of living in Whitehall, the renters will just move away. It is not as easy for homeowners, especially when so many of us are working ourselves to death just to live paycheck to paycheck. Yet we are being punished by poor decisions and irresponsible spending. For example, on the promise of a splash pad. Sometimes people make promises they cannot keep. It's part of life and people get over it. Jeff Thoburn, 466 Maplewood Avenue. Whitehall City Council. Has this city the withdrawals to utilize impact fees to pay for sewer repairs? I wouldn't need to voice a resounding no to issue to Ordinance 61-2021. Moreover, existing in the prime logistical area, 270, 670 airport does not equate to a need to sell the farm in order to attract development. On a broader scale, as Whitehall's elected servants go about the task of doing their constituents' bidding and business, they need bear in mind that technology, and increasingly so, permits voters to monitor and then scrutinize information about the workings of government and at the city level as well. Franklin County Auditor Stenziano's first of its kind in Ohio tax incentive hub, where voters can now track actions and outcomes of tax incentives and TIF projects granted by Whitehall elected, is just one example. As well, social media, with its ability to dispatch news, views, and relevant dialogue on current affairs, is another can of worms that the city's elected should remain conscious of. Long gone are the days when only tables of locals reading the newspaper and discussing politics at the town coffee shop was citizens' actions. In 2021, its maximum information exposure and engagement at a finger's click via the electronic dispensary of facts. All of that information availability should and does for council translate into fact that being elected and earning permission from voters to provide for the exercise of all powers of local self-government and possessing the power to levy taxes and incur debts grants privilege to the elected that come with Whitehall citizens' rights to vet their servants' use of their powers granted. In the words of Thomas Jefferson, I predict future happiness for Americans if they can prevent the government from wasting the labors of the people under the pretense of taking care of them. Leslie LaCourte, 5066 Etna Road. Council, I am opposed to Ordinance 61-2021. I request that you think of the citizens of our community as you vote with the extreme impact you are putting on many with this water bill increase, our seniors on fixed incomes, our families with children, and many citizens who are living with government assistance. Your efforts have been minimal to address this situation in the last 10 years, and it is not us citizens that should have to step up again. It is time you take an active approach, make cuts from your wants of opportunity and in the budget, instead of depending on us citizens to make cuts from our livelihood and survival. Erica Wickham, 4132 Wright Park Avenue. Dear Council, I am opposing the ordinance of 61-2021 for the sewer repair. Sincerely, Erica Wickham. Lisa Vanderbilt, 602 Collingwood Avenue. I would appreciate your sharing my email with all City Council committee members prior to the meeting on August 17th of this week. I am opposed to Ordinance 61-2021, not because I don't want our sewers brought up to the 2021 standards. I am opposed to it because of the mismanagement of money over the years. Knowing the city has antiquated sewers from the 1950s, I find it hard to accept that the mayor chose to ignore her promise to repair and replace our sewers. I didn't need or want a dog park nor new parks. I find it unbelievable for her to provide salary increases, positions that were unnecessary, and overall disregard for residents who were deluged with repeated floods and water-filled basements. I ask you to vote no on Ordinance 61-2021 and force the mayor to find other methods of funding sewer replacements, which she should have done back in 2012 to today. Tammy Thomas, 4404 Allen Drive. I support this measure. The sewer lines were originally established in 1954, judging by the date on the manhole covers. They are in decrepit need of repair. This slight raise in taxes will facilitate the repairs needed, hopefully reducing street flooding in the process. I support this increase. It will improve the city overall. Jeff Patterson, 4091 Chandler. Dear Council, I am opposed to Ordinance 61-2021. How, with good conscience, can you pass this ordinance? Regards, Jeff Patterson.
That's it?
Yes.
Thank you. Hearing nothing further, we will now move into our standing committee reports. Administration and Financial Management, Chairperson Bailey.
Hey, Mr. President, Administration, Financial Management did meet last Tuesday. We have a few items to be introduced tonight for consideration. Our minutes are on file from last week, and we will meet again next Tuesday sometime after 6:30.
Thank you. Community and Elder Advocacy, Chairperson Elmore.
Thank you, Mr. President. Committee and Elder Advocacy did meet. We have no pending or current legislation. Our minutes are on file. We will meet again next Tuesday about 6:30.
Terrific. Community Standards and Enforcement, Chairperson Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Community Standards and Enforcement met last Tuesday. Our minutes are on file. We have nothing on this evening's agenda.
Thank you. Economic Development, Chairperson Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. President. Economic Development also met last Tuesday. We have nothing on the agenda this evening, and we will meet again sometime next week after 6:30.
Thank you. Infrastructure, Maintenance, and Services, Chairperson Heck.
Thank you, Mr. President. Infrastructure, Maintenance, and Services met last Tuesday. We have one piece of legislation being read in third reading. We will meet sometime after 6:30 on Tuesday.
Very good, thank you. Public Safety, Chairperson Coniston.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public Safety also met last week. Our minutes are on file. We do have Ordinance 74 tonight up for adoption, and we will meet again next Tuesday.
Very good. And finally, Parks and Recreation, Chairperson Cantor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Parks and Recreation met last week, and our minutes are on file. We have nothing on the agenda tonight. We'll meet again next week in the back after 6:30.
Very good. We'll now move on to our officials' reports. Mayor Maggard.
Good evening. I would like to ask favorable consideration of City Council for Ordinance 61, 62, and 63. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney Bivens.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of council. I would like to start off first by thanking the mayor and her leadership as it relates to what we had to do today with respect to Mayor's Court. We had an outbreak of potential COVID in the building, necessitating changing Mayor's Court. I would also like to publicly thank my staff for stepping up to the plate on getting Mayor's Court continuances. Mayor's Court will resume August 31st. That's the closest date. The cases that were set today will be set for September the 17th, and then the cases next week will be set for September 24th. And so what the plan is, even today, we were able to get the continuances out. We came down, we monitored. We had a pretty large docket today, and even notwithstanding that large docket, we only had about 20 people that didn't get the notice, and they were completely fine with the reason why Mayor's Court was continued. And what we've done in the past few weeks, we've kept up our COVID protocols since the mask mandates have been, somewhat lax, since everyone's kind of trying to get back to normal. And it has been phenomenal. I believe the mayor's staff has agreed that the way that we're doing our Mayor's Court with respect to texting and keeping social distancing, the thing that I know is that we do not want to have a super spreader event in the city of Whitehall, and to date, we've received no notice that there's ever been a super spreader event, and anyone who's come to our Mayor's Court prior to COVID would know if there's going to be a super spreader event, it's going to be at our Mayor's Court, because we do have a lot of people, at least in excess of 200 people sometimes coming into our Mayor's Court on any given Tuesday. So I would like to thank the mayor, their staff, and all of the persons involved for holding the line. I know that a lot of us want to get back to normal as it relates to COVID, but COVID doesn't want, and COVID is not normal. And COVID, if it were an actual person, doesn't care about your civil liberties, it doesn't care about your freedoms, doesn't care about any of your thoughts or your feelings about going back to a life that existed prior to that. So we have to stay vigilant and protect each other and protect each other's life, health, and safety. I just lost a very dear friend of mine yesterday, and my heart grieves and weeps for his family, weeps for every person that was involved in his life. And the thing that I know after having lost my mother, and I could get preachy with this and I won't, but after having lost my mother a few years ago, the last thing I was thinking about when I lost her was the economy. Last thing I was thinking of when I lost her was my business. The last thing I was thinking of when I lost her was anything except the fact that I loved her, I missed her, and I will never get the opportunity to see her, and she will never get the opportunity to see her grandkids have kids. And so COVID right now is decimating our communities. I know that everyone wants to get back to normal, but it's not normal. So we're going to have to step up. We're going to have to protect each other. We're going to have to look at each other with the love of God by loving our neighbor as ourselves. And that love means if it costs you to wear a mask to protect your life and the life of others, then by God, wear the mask. Your life is too important. I didn't mean to say that, but it just got on that as I was thinking about our COVID protocols today. And all I want to do is serve this city and make sure that when we come into this place, we're safe. And I know that every member of council feels the same way, and I hope the public does too. We'll be here ready to serve on August 31st, and I look forward to court resuming, and we'll continue business as usual then. Thank you, Mr. President.
Attorney Booth, thank you so much. You make a great point, not to get too deep into the well with you there, but COVID is reinventing itself every day in a new way. So just when you think you've got it, it's representing because it wants to be its best self, which is bad for us.
Exactly.
So you hit the nail on the head. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Auditor Miller is not with us this evening. Director of Development and Public Service, Director Woodruff.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no official report this evening.
Thank you. Director of Public Safety, Van Gregg, is not with us this evening. Our Director, Treasurer, Steve Quinchell, is not with us this evening. The following official reports have been filed in the council office since the last meeting. And those would include the Mayor's Report to Council for July 2021, the Auditor's Expense Report for July 2021, the Auditor's Bank Report for July 2021, the Auditor's Statement of Cash Position Report for July 2021, and the Auditor's Revenue Report for July 2021. Under Communications, Petitions, and Claims, we have two items. First is the Notice of the Ohio Division of Liquor Control for a new D3 liquor permit for Tranquil Lady Incorporated and Patio, 4263 East Main Street, Whitehall, Ohio, 43213, as well as minutes for the August 5th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting. Ms. Aug, would you please call roll as to whether each member of council was given a copy of each item of legislation listed on the agenda prior to the meeting and including any add-on legislation?
Heck.
Yes.
Morrison.
Yes.
Bailey.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Elmore.
Yes.
Coniston.
Yes.
Cantor.
Yes.
Thank you. Under third reading, we have several items this evening. First is Ordinance 61, 2021, an ordinance to amend Chapter 913 Sanitary Regulations as contained. Ordinance 61, 2021.
You're good.
Oh, okay, I don't know where that back is coming from. As contained in Title I, Streets Utilities of Part 9, Streets and Public Services Code of the codified city ordinances of the City of Whitehall, Ohio, by creating sewer and water surcharges for the users of each utility and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I would like to introduce ordinance number 61, 2020, and move to amend the second sentence of section A2 to read 100% of such surcharge shall apply to all bills rendered for the billing period beginning on and after July 1st, 2023, and to amend the second sentence of section 1B2 to read 100% of such surcharge shall apply to all bills rendered for billing period beginning on and after July 1, 2023.
Second.
Ordinance 61, 2021 has been introduced with the request to amend as noted by Chairperson Heck. Any discussion on the motion for amending?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to thank Councilperson Heck for posing the amended sections as she read into the record.
Thank you.
If I could, just for clarification for those who don't have the legislation in front of them, what the proposed amendment would do is half of the proposed surcharge would go into effect July 1 of 2022. The remaining half would go into effect instead of January 1, 2023, as currently in the legislation, would instead go into effect July 1 of 2023. I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood what the amendment was. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
So for clarification, we're voting on the amendment.
Yes, the introduction and amendment, and then we'll have a separate
Introduction amendment or the?
Yes, introduction.
introduction and amending, and then we'll go for the approval after the amendment's been approved.
Okay, thank you.
And just for point of clarification, members of council, the amendment as read has no impact on the emergency measure.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Aug, please call roll.
Heck.
Yes.
Morrison.
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Elmore?
Yes.
Coniston?
Yes.
Cantor?
Yes. Thank you. Ordinance 61, 2021 has been introduced and amended. At this time, I accept a motion for the approval of Ordinance 61, 2020 as amended.
Move to adopt as amended.
Second.
A motion to adopt by Ms. Heck, second by Mr. Morrison. Any discussion on the motion? Ms. Aug, please call roll.
Heck?
Yes.
Morrison?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
No.
Elmore?
Yes.
Coniston?
Yes.
Cantor?
Yes. Ordinance 61, 2021 has been adopted. Ordinance 62, 2021, authorizing the creation of the Water Utility Fund 841, appropriating $200,000 from unappropriated monies in the Water Utility Fund 841 to the Water Utility Expense Account 841.000.50,000 and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I'd like to introduce ordinance 62, 2021, and move to adopt.
Second?
Mr. Bailey, second by Ms. Coniston, has introduced ordinance 62, 2021 and moved for its adoption. Is there any discussion? Ms. Aug, please call roll.
Heck?
Yes.
Morrison?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Elmore?
Yes.
Coniston?
Yes.
Cantor?
Yes. Ordinance 62, 2021 has been adopted. Ordinance 63, 2021, authorizing the creation of the Sewer Utility Fund 840 and appropriating $200,000 from unappropriated monies in the Sewer Utility Fund 840 to the Sewer Utility Expense Account 840.000.50,000 and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I'd like to introduce ordinance 63, 2021, and move to adopt.
Second.
Mr. Bailey has introduced ordinance 63, 2021, seconded by Mr. Morrison, requesting the adoption. Is there any discussion on the motion? Ms. Aug, please call roll.
Heck?
Yes.
Morrison?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Elmore?
Yes.
Coniston?
Yes.
Cantor?
Yes. Ordinance 63, 2021 has been adopted. We have two items under second reading this evening, and both of these will be by title only. Ordinance 70, 2021, making a fund transfer in the amount of $33,082 to the bond retirement account 101-950-57,500, the debt service fund 401, and declaring an emergency. Also, ordinance 71, 2021, again being read by title only, making a fund transfer in the amount of $65,247.96 from the bond retirement account 101-950-57,500, the debt service fund 401, and declaring an emergency. This now brings us to our first reading ordinances. First one this evening is 74, 2021, approving and making a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $96,943.18 from unappropriated monies in the Law Enforcement Trust Fund 241 to the Law Enforcement Trust Account 241-000-50,000 and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I'd like to introduce ordinance number 74, 2021, and move for suspension of all rules.
Second?
Thank you. Ordinance 74, 2021 has been introduced by Ms. Coniston, seconded by Ms. Heck, with a request to suspend all rules. Is there any discussion on the motion? Ms. Aug, please call roll.
Heck?
Yes.
Morrison?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Elmore?
Yes.
Coniston?
Yes.
Cantor?
Yes. The rules have been suspended.
Move to adopt?
Second?
Motion to adopt by Ms. Coniston, seconded by Ms. Heck. Any discussion? Ms. Aug, please call roll.
Heck?
Yes.
Morrison?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Elmore?
Yes.
Coniston?
Yes.
Cantor?
Yes. Ordinance 74, 2021 has been adopted. Our last piece of legislation this evening is Ordinance 75, 2021, approving and making a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $4,000 from unappropriated monies in the General Fund 101 to the Credit Card Fees Expense Account 101.950.59,620 and declaring an emergency.
Mr. President, I'd like to introduce ordinance 75, 2021, move for suspension of all rules.
Second. Mr. Bailey has introduced Ordinance 75, 2021 with a second from Mr. Cantor with a request to suspend all rules. Any discussion? Ms. Aug, please call roll.
Heck?
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Bailey,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Elmore,
Yes.
Coniston,
Yes.
Cantor.
Yes.
The rules have been suspended.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to adopt.
Second.
A motion to adopt by Mr. Bailey, second by Mr. Cantor. Any discussion? Ms. Aug, please call roll.
Heck,
Yes.
Morrison,
Yes.
Bailey,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Elmore,
Yes.
Coniston,
Yes.
Cantor.
Yes.
Ordinance 75, 2021 has been adopted. We are now at our second full public of the evening, and again, I would invite anybody to come forward. And if you do, please state your name, address, and be respectful of the 3 minutes of time. Hearing none, I'll move into Community Day Board. Karen, that's kind of your thing.
Yeah, it kind of is.
School starts back next week.
There you go.
Thank you for the nice save.
Yeah, Monday.
Exactly.
Monday.
So you'll see lots of kids walking, you'll see buses. The career center already started back, I think, this week, but more of our kids will go back next week.
So let's slow down, be more aware of our surroundings, and
Yes.
keep little people safe.
We have game Friday too, I believe.
Yes, an away game. Yep.
Granville, not View, but Granville. Out by Newark, Keith area. Yes. Parks and Recreation, their meeting is tomorrow night at 6 p.m. at the Parks office.
Oh, on Saturday they're having the dinosaur fossil at Parks and Whitehall Community Park at 10 o'clock. Anything else?
Then I'll roll right into full council. Ms. Head.
Oh, and first, okay, thank you for everybody that tuned in, and everybody that came, everybody that wrote in, everybody else that I'm sure has contacted us about the issue that many spoke tonight on public record, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would like to thank everyone for watching, everyone that took time to come in, and all the comments that was made, and everyone have a safe week.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, pretty much the same thing. Thank you all for coming in, and especially those that wrote in and expressed their thoughts. Appreciate that. Mr. City Attorney, always appreciate your insight and your heartfelt things you shared. They do hit home, and as you said, our court is, I think, generally only 14% of the cases are people from Whitehall, so these folks could be coming in from all around Columbus, so you are correct, and I appreciate the mayor's administration's response to COVID protocols, and also you, Mr. President, for your comments, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez.
Well, I gotta admit that jumping in the well thing, I didn't quite.
You take it
Thank you,
off.
Mr. President. I want to thank everyone who took the time to come in tonight, and everyone who's out there in Facebook land. Last Saturday, I had the pleasure of having a conversation with a young lady at Las Vegas, and she was. You can just see how much love she has for the city, and seeing that in the next generation, and just such a positive outlook and positive feeling for the community. Just really, I walked away, made me feel the proverbial hope for the future. I hope that person continues or gets involved further with the community, continues to her enthusiasm, and is someday a part of the greatness that is Whitehall. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. That was very nicely put. Ms. Elmore.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for everybody that took the time to write in the poll public that spoke this evening. Thank you, Jerry, for your comment. And who just came out to see what council was about. I want to speak to the water and sewage issue, because I can relate to some of the people that actually wrote in and the issues that they've had with water and sewage. We've had 2 floods in our basement, both needing repair, floors dug up and everything. So I understand that. And And I sympathize, I empathize with those people, because I'm one of those people that, because of the repairs that have not been maintained, or the sewage system that has not been maintained, the fact that there has been nothing done but the minimal repairs to keep it up and running is the reason why we're at where we are. One of the residents wrote in and stated 1954. Now, if we take 1954 and there's been no changes or no updates to our present infrastructure and sewer system, it's no wonder why we're experiencing the things that we're experiencing as far as the flooding goes, the water going back into people's houses, the backflow and all of that. And so, although I sympathize, I can relate to all of that, at what point do we decide that it's time to repair a failing infrastructure? We need to repair a failing infrastructure. This is more than a 12-year problem. This issue is more than a 12-year problem. And so, with that said, surely we can come to some understanding that although it's not what we want to do, it's what we have to do. It's something that we have to do. This should not be a contentious issue because it's needed, and everybody's homes at one point or another is going to experience some type of flooding, some type of backflow, something, your foundation caving in because you don't have what's needed in order to keep things running. No city can continue to prosper, improve without repairs. And although it's a very difficult issue to address, it's something that we need to do. The friendly amendment that was offered, in my opinion, will help to help some folks. But at the end of the day, we can't live in a house without maintaining it. And that's in the city also. So we have to keep our city running. The way we keep our city running is to continue to improve the infrastructure and things needed to keep it improved. And so, I expressed my concerns. I'm glad everybody has expressed their concerns. But at the end of the day, this is our city, all of us. And we need to come together on this issue. And I just want to thank everybody for the comments, and I don't have anything else. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Elmore. Ms. Coniston.
I would just like to thank everybody for coming, for viewing, and let's be kind to one another.
Thank you. Mr. Kander.
God bless what Karen just said. Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank everybody that wrote in and was watching and everybody in the audience that's here. I'd also like to say happy belated anniversary to two people that I have really come to love over the 9 years that I have known them. And I met them. I actually met him sitting out on a field watching his daughter run track and my son running track, and he was calling her, "Go Gazelle, go." Michael, you enjoy. You're beautiful people. Happy belated anniversary by I think 2 days. I might be wrong on that, but I thank you so much for your friendship and the love of your family. You have a phenomenal family led by you and George. So
thank you.
I couldn't get by without saying that. So, and I do remember the Gazelle, so I think you do too. Last Tuesday night I had the honor and the privilege and the joy again of being at Whitehall Young High School. I want to thank all the people that came up to me. They were kind of shocked to see me there because a lot of them looked at me and said, "Oh wow, you have another one, a younger one." Actually, yes, I even have a younger one than the younger one. So, but it was really nice, all the people that came up and they talked to me. It was great being back in there. It's kind of funny. Isabella's counselor is the same counselor that April had and that Michael had, Mrs. Bunsen, who was a phenomenal lady, and I also got to meet Mr. Lee. What a really good principal that we have there. I was really impressed. We took a little tour of the high school, so that was really cool. She really liked that. So congratulations, Isabella. Good luck Monday. Also, I want to say congratulations to my youngest daughter, Elizabeth. Congratulations on making New Albany's freshman volleyball team. You did a great job. I haven't missed anything. I know you got a lot of games on Tuesday. I'm not going to miss you. I'm 65 years old. Daddy's going to be there, sweetheart. So with that said, I thank everybody for up here, everybody that came in. God bless America. Pray for the people, the men, women, and children in Afghanistan. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. I too just like to close out by again thanking everybody for taking the time to write in their comments and folks coming forward this evening. As Ms. Elmore said, it's not an easy issue, but it's one that's got to be addressed, and I think the administration, supported by council, is doing the responsible things to move this forward. Again, it's not always a popular thing, but it's something that needs to be done, and I certainly support that. I have got nothing further.
Mr. President, I love you girls. Gotta be home soon. I forgot that. They tell me this stuff too.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I've got
Mr.
a,
President.
yes.
Move to adopt.
Second?
I'm sorry.
We will adopt Mr. Daly's motion to adjourn, second by Mr. Cantor.
Okay.
Ms. Aug, please call roll.
Or took off.
Yes.
Morrison?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Elmore?
Yes.
Coniston?
Yes.
Cantor?
Yes.
We are adjourned at 7:56.
I'll be back on, Larry, you got Karen or Joanna? Oh, okay.
No, I don't have hers.